And to all my Chelsea fans watching this video, I am very incredibly sorry if this ends up being a jinx for you guys. Trust me, that is not what I am going for with this video. I'm just trying to get everybody ready for what's to come with this Chelsea side. The most successful team in London last season, in my opinion, is shaping up to have a very good campaign that I think most people are going to end up sleeping on. Chelsea is the latest team to bounce back from their dark times before Manchester United and managed to put themselves in a very solid place to genuinely challenge for all of the competitions that they are in this season. And they didn't get here in the blink of an eye. They did struggle a little bit a few years ago. When Todd Bohely and Clearlake brought freedom to Chelsea Football Club, it felt like the board and the vision for transfers was all over the place. Chelsea would bring in a ton of players on crazy death row, 360 could have been record contracts, and I felt like they were throwing stuff against the wall to see what would stick. This lack of vision and some poor managerial appointments would see them finish in 12th place during the 22-23 season, and realistically this was their most recent rock bottom. Having learned from their mistakes and being blessed enough to have the superstar that is Cole Palmer rise to the occasion, Chelsea have progressively gotten better and better since then, and spending hundreds of millions on transfers hasn't hurt either. They've now managed to become a pretty respectable side and prove a lot of haters wrong. Important foundational work started to really show itself last season, specifically when the newly appointed manager Enzo Maresca just started to cook from a tactical standpoint, which then allowed the players to do their part on the pitch, which allowed Chelsea to grow into the season. Because yes, the first month or so of the season last year wasn't the most consistent from them, but by around Christmas Day, Chelsea found themselves sitting in second place to the shock of many. On multiple occasions, Chelsea were scoring 3+ goals, and usually performances from Cole Palmer, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, who many have previously written off, and Cucurella would be the ones that got them over the line. And I did allude to this, but I do have to say it, Chelsea by no means is some underdog side that has been, deprived of resource. It has helped Chelsea tremendously that they have enough depth to run completely different starting 11s in their competitions because of the fact that they have purchased so many players. But nonetheless, they would take advantage of the greed and manage to see out the rest of the season in some decent fashion. Despite throwing themselves in a title race for a little bit, their form would drop off a little after December as teams started to slightly clock onto Maresca tactics and odd injuries affecting the side here and there. They would not manage to get very far in either the FA or the EFL Cup, but would manage to lock in for the rest of the Premier League season, and in their last 10 games would win 6, draw 2, and lose 2 to secure top 4 on the very final day of the season. And in the background of their domestic competitions, Chelsea would pretty much breeze through the Conference League, where they would eventually make the final. Realistically, a £1 billion squad should be making the Conference League final, since it's a competition that's designed for the European teams that don't have these crazy resources and crazy money. So it's a good thing they made that final, or else the conversations would be a little bit spooky. Nonetheless, in the final, they would face a Real Betis side that was led by the pride of Brazil and Anthony, but the Lions on the evening would just show their dominance and came out as 4-1 victors to secure some European silverware, becoming the first team to ever win the Conference League, Europa League, and Champions League. A little bit of a weird flex, but okay. So with the 24-25 season ending in pretty good fashion, a good top 4 run, a European trophy, the vibes at Chelsea and the hopes were all pretty high, and deservedly so. But now Chelsea had to prove themselves just a little bit more on a stage with a lot of eyes on it, that being the Club World Cup. And before the summer tournament got started, they'd also retooled by bringing in Liam Delap from Ipswich for 35 million euros and Jamie Giddens from Dortmund for 56 million euros. Of course, many people knew that this tournament wasn't the end-all be-all of the footballing calendar this year, but it was still going to be interesting to see how Chelsea did, particularly in the knockout round. Of course, they had to get through the group stage, but that more or less felt like a formality for a squad like Chelsea. Well, in the Club World Cup group stages, the Blues would easily dispatch LAFC in an empty stadium for their first game, and got a swift punch to the jaw in their second match as they lost to Flamengo, and then finished it off easily enough by beating Esperance on the final match day. Interestingly enough, through these games, we started to see Maresca tinkering with the squad. He tried out new tactics and players in different positions, which over time started to click. In the round of 16, Chelsea would struggle at first against Benfica, which saw the game go to extra time. But it was here where a Benfica red card gave Chelsea the window they needed to get 3 unanswered goals and finish off the game. In the quarterfinals, a very impressive Palmeiras side would push this Chelsea team to the end until an unfortunate own goal saw the London side come out with a victory. This game would also see the debut of Chelsea's new signing João Pedro, where he would impress in his cameo. The semi-finals would again see Chelsea go up against a Brazilian side, this time against Fluminense. But this match would see João Pedro in just his first start for Chelsea get a brace that would see them go through. Upon the implementation of João Pedro into the side, we could see how much he was going to work well when playing off of Cole Palmer and Pedro Neto. But now in the final, Chelsea were seen as the underdog side because of the fact that they were going up against the treble-winning PSG side that had just smacked jacked up Real Madrid 4-0. However, it would be in this final where a lot of eyes started turning towards Chelsea, because from the first minute it really felt like Chelsea was a team that was on the front foot. They aggressively pressed and managed to play around PSG's system that had the Champions League on lock. 22 minutes in, Cole Palmer would score a beautiful goal that came off of Malo Gusto pressuring Nuno Mendes. 8 minutes later, Palmer would pick up the ball off the right-hand side again before cutting in, sitting Beraldo down, and then placing it in the bottom corner. So just 30 minutes in, and Chelsea already had PSG on the ropes. And yet they wouldn't be done there, as at the 42nd minute, Cole Palmer would play João Pedro in behind, where he would chip Donnarumma to make it 3-0 and finish the game off for good. Chelsea's run to the final had been undermined since they had to play South American giants, but then managed to kill PSG in the final, which made it clear that these guys were not messing around. Palmer and João Pedro, at least from the attacking front, were clearly showing signs that an insane partnership was brewing. João Pedro in just 3 games had already gotten himself 3 goals. Across the pitch, the same names I had mentioned before, like Cucurella, Caicedo, and even Enzo Fernandez, were all hooping like crazy and allowing Chelsea to fluctuate between controlling the tempo and also absorbing pressure. And with that, Chelsea are now the Club World Cup champions. And to be honest with you, those last 2 games of the Club World Cup, as well as how they've started off the season, is really the reason why I think Chelsea is going to have a season that's just going to shock a lot of people. To be clear, I don't think Chelsea is going to win the Premier League specifically. If Arsenal and Liverpool start to rack up crazy injuries and drop points, and then Chelsea go on some insane run, then maybe, but I don't see it happening. However, I do think they will push those teams to the end and have the ability to maybe slip into second, but definitely be amongst the top 3 names when it's all said and done. In the same breath though, I could see Chelsea making good deep runs into the cup competitions that they're in, both domestically and in Europe. A squad like Chelsea's that has the bandwidth to rotate heavily because they've been pumped with so much money will find it easier to prioritize specific games in order to keep their big names fresh. Would anyone really be surprised if Chelsea managed to bag themselves a cheeky EFL or FA Cup this season? And I really could see them making a solid run in the Champions League as well. I feel like it's in Chelsea's DNA to be Champions League winners when people expect it the least. If they're still seen as the underdogs going into games against those larger European opponents, I feel like they'll catch them slipping. But really, a good quarterfinal or semifinal run could easily be on the cards for them. And all of this, of course, will not be possible without the manager at the helm and the players that are actually on the pitch. Enzo Maresca, in my opinion, is one of the league's most underrated managers. Again, yes, he does have a massive squad that's worth so much at his disposal, but from a tactical standpoint, I think he manages to really go toe-to-toe with the best in the league. It seems like he understands that most games require the team to go on with specific instructions that will set the team up the best. And some of you might be thinking, yes, duh, that's what a manager is supposed to do. But we see with the likes of Ruben Amorim and even at times Arteta how managers can be stubborn to their system to the detriment of the team and the result. And of course, Maresca isn't perfect, right? He's been on his end of his fair share of ass whoopings, but the guy knows how to get things done at the end of the day. He's been getting a lot out of his players, which is another big reason for why this team's doing so well. Of course, Chelsea's shining light is Cole Palmer. Palmer, since breaking out, has been helping Chelsea so much with his creative and goal-scoring output. On his day, he is easily one of, if not arguably the best attacking midfielder that the Premier League has to offer. Thanks to Maresca's system, Palmer finds himself having multiple runners in behind as he gets on the ball, which then either gives him the space to drive with the ball or to look to play a teammate in behind. As long as Palmer's ticking, for the most part, Chelsea will thrive. Additionally, Caicedo and Enzo operate in the classic 6 and 8 role at high levels, which then gives the widebacks the freedom to roam forward. And I do think that João Pedro is a massive addition to this Chelsea side. He was good at Brighton, but in my opinion, he has hit a new gear in London, which I believe is due to the freedom that he's given, whether it's at the 9 or the 10 role. In just 7 games since signing for Chelsea, he already has 6 goals and 2 assists. If he keeps this up, tell me this won't be a huge help for the club. There's just so many things going right for Chelsea at the moment, whether it's from a player or the manager standpoint. So far, they have kicked off this Premier League season with a lulling draw to Palace that saw them generate lots of chances, but not much of substance, and the 5-1 demolition of West Ham, where we saw again the Chelsea side that had dismantled PSG on the field. And mind you, that was all without Cole Palmer. It's gonna sound really cliche and like, yes, duh, but I really think the key factors for this Chelsea side doing well is Maresca's tactics and the players that they have at their disposal. Again, yes, Chelsea is privileged in the fact that they've had so many players pumped into the team and they have so much depth where they can rotate very heavily for these cup competitions. But at this point, it is what it is, right? At the end of the day, these players could still be going out there and playing like bums. Maresca could set them up to fail from a tactical standpoint, but that's not happening. If they're able to stay healthy and this kind of persists going forward, then boy, are we in for a shocking season from Chelsea in a positive way.